Welcome to the 2025 block of the month. And to get started, we're going to do a large flower block today. So I kind of have my pieces laid out. And to begin, we're going to take the white squares and some yellow squares, and we're going to go ahead and draw a line corner to corner diagonally on each of the back side of those 2.5-inch squares. So I have a couple that I have not drawn. And so I just put my ruler so that it's corner to corner and draw a line. Okay. And then let's lay this out now on our board so that everything is oriented in the correct place, so that when we're ready to just pick up our pieces, then we can sew these sew and flip corners on. Okay, so we're going to start with the red, and we're going to do a white corner here and a yellow corner here. And so then we can go ahead, I'm going to scooch those over, and we're going to sew exactly on that drawn line. So I'm going to line these up. And then I'm going to flip it and sew the white one on. Okay. Okay, so it's going to look like that. And then what I'm going to go do is I'm going to press these open like that and then trim this off. Okay, I've pressed those back, and now I'm just going to trim off this excess approximately 1/4 inch away from that seam. And I do that on both of those sides. And then I can just discard those pieces. Okay, and then I'm going to reorient here, and I'm going to put a white across from the white there, and then a yellow across from this yellow, or next to. So and then we'll again just stitch right on that line. And then I'm going to be able to press those back and trim them, and then we'll have a unit like that. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the units that require a sew and flip corner. And again, I'm just lining up how they're supposed to go, and then stitch right on that line. Okay, and that one I'll need to press first, so I'm going to leave that one and work on the green leaf unit. Okay, I'm setting at the pressing station here, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of set my seams. And then with my fingers, I like to roll that back onto itself and then give it a good press. And then we're going to do this other side. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and just kind of fold this corner back. And again, I'm just trimming the excess away 1/4 inch from that seam allowance, or from the stitching. It doesn't have to be exact because we've already sewn it. It's in the back of our quilt, or in the back, you know, of our piece here. So it's not critical that it's exactly 1/4 inch. You could use your rotary cutter if you wanted to, but this just goes a little bit faster. And so I'm going to do that same thing on all of these units. I just have one more sew and flip unit to add, so I'm going to do that real quick, and then we'll just start assembling our block. Okay, so that's ready. I'm going to press that and trim it, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I have all the pieces laid out on this design board, and I'd like to do this with the design board just because it's handy, it's portable. I can move it back and forth to the pressing table. I like to make sure I've got everything oriented the correct way before I start sewing things together, and that helps eliminate the need for a seam ripper sometimes. So let's just go ahead and we're going to piece these two here, and we're just going to line up all of our edges. And then we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm just going to set it back on my board, and then I'll just do the pressing all at the same time. And then I'm going to join these two leaf units together. On the pressing for this unit, I just went ahead and pressed to this bottom yellow portion just because there's no seams here. So it just kind of wants to lay that way. So and you're welcome to press them open. And then on the leaf units, I just did one this way, one that way, so that when I put them together, they will nest. So now we're going to go ahead and just keep assembling our unit, and we're going to add these side pieces onto the flower top, and I'm just lining up all the edges. And if you find it helps to pin, go ahead and do that. I just like to hold everything in place. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of push this out of the way and then add the other one. Okay. Okay, and that is not lining up quite right, so I'm going to check my measurements. I don't know that I trimmed this one correctly. Okay, and then I'm going to join these leaf units together. And here I'm just going to make sure that seam butts up, line up my edges. Okay, I'm going to press everything and then we can join those two together. Okay, on this one here where I was checking the measurements because it was a little bit longer, the measurements were okay, but maybe you can see here, this corner part here was a little bit short. So you can see this one was a little bit longer, so it's correct, and then this was correct. So I'm just going to kind of split the difference, and when I sew my leaf units on, I'm going to be lining up this edge, and then that's just going to be a little bit short, but it is within my 1/4 inch, so I'm okay with that. So let's go ahead and sew those together. And I'm just going to line up each corner. And so I don't think you'll be able to see because it's the white on white, but this part right here is just a little bit shorter, but that's okay because I'm going to catch it in the seam allowance. Okay, there we go. And then that section is done after we give it a good press. And then we're going to move on to the little borders. To get started with the little sashed border piece that we have on each side, we're going to be using a white unit and a navy unit. And so I'm just going to line them up like this and go ahead and just stitch across that short side. I'm going to do that to all my pieces, adding a white to a navy, right sides together, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to cut these apart and then I'm just going to go press everything towards the navy. I have 2 white pieces left because the top of each row is going to get a white added on to one of the navies. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 navy pieces and just add 1 white one to each of those. Okay, and now I can press everything. Okay, and I've pressed all those so that the seam allowance is going towards the navy print. And then I'm just going to continue joining them so that they make 2 2 long columns. Okay, there's our strip set. And I'm going to go ahead and press all those seams to the navy, and then we'll be ready to add the 2 side pieces. These are pressed, and again, I just pressed all to the navy. And this piece here could have been joined as a strip set and then cut it apart into the increments, but I'm not a huge fan of strip sets. I like that I can start and stop my threads, and I'm not going to worry about on a strip set where you cut those apart and then you could have your little threads popping here. So I don't like that aspect of it, and I also think it's harder to press a longer strip set than just a little piece. So that's why I prefer just to cut all my pieces and sew them together. And then I'm just going to add a long white strip to each side of both stripped pieces. Okay, I'm going to press that then towards the white because there's fewer seams here, and then I think it's going to be easier to add the next sides on. Lastly, we're going to add a sashing piece, or that stripped piece here, to each side of our flower, and I'm just going to do one at a time. I think I am going to go ahead and just put a pin in the bottom part because I know I don't want that to shift, and it is pretty long, so it's easy for it to get off by the time we get that far of a seam done. And then I'll just line this top one up. Okay, and then 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we can add that on. Okay, I've pinned it up on the design wall there, and that's our finished block. Thanks for watching.